energy to it. So thank you. Welcome, GM. Karibuni, as we say in Kiswahili. Welcome, Austin. How are you doing today?
Howdy. Doing good,
Great.
doing good, GM.
Well, welcome to African Voices. This is a show where we have conversations about the application of Web3 technology in Africa, with the aim of sort of developing an understanding and an appreciation of the context, identifying what are the challenges, and creating the opportunities to get involved and move this agenda forward. As usual, we have Ray of Light supporting us in the back with the logistics of the space. Austin, our regular co-host on the show. Your impressions from last week, and this is going to be a continuation of that conversation today. So tell us a little about your impressions, what happened last week.
Yeah, last week it was a phenomenal show. If you haven't checked it out, go back and watch it after this one, the part one. But I was thoroughly impressed with the show last week. My favorite thing is seeing people building in blockchain and Web3 and other, IoT, AI, and actually using it for what the tech can do instead of it just being vaporware coins and whatnot. So
Right.
thoroughly impressed that they're building something of substance and utilizing the tech, and they're doing it in the local economy, which can revolutionize their area, so really impressed with the show last week.
Right, it was very impressive. The conversation was about tokenizing agriculture, and we were looking at coffee and avocados specifically. And we met up with these 4 tech-savvy entrepreneurs, right, who are trying to bring about change. I think you said something on the DGen Spaces last week about how, this generation is being presented with opportunities to make things happen. And you were very impressed with how you saw these guys, not just sitting around and waiting for things to unfold, but actually taking charge. So we have with us our guests from last time, which were Paul, Peter, we had Kevin. James is not going to be here, unfortunately, but we do have Mohammed Jahazi, who will be subbing in. So we're going to continue this conversation about avocados, coffee, and so let's bring these guys on, and then what we'll do is we'll have a quick recap, and we'll get into tokenization. What is it, and what's the business case? Karibuni, welcome. Thank you very much. I'm not going to go into much of the introductions because they're on our video from last time, but we do have Mohammed Jahazi here, and we don't know very much about him. So Mohammed, can you just take a minute to just tell us a little bit about yourself and what you're doing?
Hi guys, thanks Karim. I hope you guys can hear me. So thanks for having me on board. So I'm an engineer by trade. I'm a solutions engineer with 1 Million Avocados. And what I try to do is explore my expertise or experience in Earth observation, remote sensing, GIS, and adding all this into a solution model to provide this to front face this ideally to the clients. And right now we're doing this for farmers in avocados. So, and then we'll do it for coffee farmers and different other players in the ecosystem. So yeah, I guess as the conversation rolls on, you get to get snippets of what I do at 1 Million Avocados. Thank you.
Great, thank you very much. And a special thank you to members of the audience for jumping in. Smash the like button, help get this content out there. We really appreciate everyone being here. And you know, if you think this is going to be of value to others, certainly let them know so that they can tune into the videos. And we have last week's recording also available. All right. So the plan for today is I'm going to quickly review what we talked about last week and get into what tokenization is all about. And then you can help us understand what is your business case. How would it work in Kenya, right? If I'm investing in these avocados or this coffee farm, what does it mean? So Ray, let's start with the slides, please. Okay, so thank you. So we heard about, last week that, coffee farming isn't what it used to be. Paul talked about how his father, one generation ago, was able to put all the kids, 13 and then some, through school. The returns on investment are not there. We have issues around, productivity, climate change, taxes, of course, we know about that. And then we also heard, from James's story about how he got his first computer and he got into technology and became this telephone farmer, where he was in one place and just keeping tabs on what was happening elsewhere. And but much to his chagrin, he found out that all the money that he thought was going into his farm went elsewhere. So there were issues around transparency, accountability, visibility, as he called it, as referred to it, right? And why is this important? It's because agriculture plays a significant role in the economy of Kenya, accounts for about 33% of GDP. We do know that the per capita income is about $2,000 a year, right? So it's not a lot compared to what we see in other countries. We have a lot of smallholder farmers that are suffering. There was a presentation several years ago by Jaspreet Bindra talking about farming in India and agriculture in India, and how smallholder farmers were being exploited to the point where there were something in the order of like 23 suicides every day. I mean, that's quite remarkable. They felt that they had no hope, and so this is what they're resorting to. And so, there are solutions out there, and so let's talk about this. Next slide, please. So we want to talk a little bit about IoT. This is the Internet of Things, AI and blockchain. So with IoT, we're talking about being able to collect data, whether it's from drones, whether it's from remote sensing, so it involves GIS type information, picking up data. And then if we're able to forward this data to AI, deep machine learning models, we can get into what is known as precision farming. So with generative AI, we can also be providing farmers with advice. So we could be looking at weather patterns, we can look at crop yields and things of that nature, things around the soil, plant production and what have you, and make better informed decisions of how we can improve the productivity and the like. On the flip side, we can take this data and put it on chain, as it's called. So that means put it on the blockchain, and thereby addressing issues of transparency. Blockchain is known as a trustless protocol, so there are no intermediaries and nobody to get in the middle of trying to interfere with the transaction. So it makes it that much more efficient and effective. And it also allows access to finance. We can crowdsource very easily by being able to move cryptocurrencies at any time, anywhere. It's like sending an email. You don't have to wait for the bank. You don't have anybody's permission or approval. So these are the three components that sort of make up what's happening. And we refer to this as the Web3 economy, or the creator economy. I've written about some of these articles on Medium. I'll share some resources at the end. So we have some book reviews. If you want to learn more about this stuff, let's go to the SBU Now Medium channel, and there are lots of references there. Ray of Light is one of the wise guys, and he has a show and talking about all of these issues. So there is material out there. Let's just kind of move forward and talk a little bit about tokenization. So you might have heard the term RWA, or real world assets. Okay, so there's a lot of talk about what's happening with the tokenization of real world assets. And we have from Binance Research from last year, there's this talk about how, it could be like a 16 trillion market in the next 6 years or so, all right, up from about 310 billion today, okay, or more. And the whole idea is that if I have an asset in the real world, take that and have a representation, tokenize that, right? And once I'm able to do that, and this is what blockchain allows us to do, is tokenize something in the real world. And then the question is, how big a slice of that token do I want? All right. Do I want 10%, 1%, a fraction of 1%, and so on, right? So because it's in a digital format and it's represented on the blockchain, there are all kinds of advantages that make it very easy to split up into smaller bits. And so, I certainly can't afford to own the Empire State Building, but I could own a fraction of it, right? And if I can own a fraction of a building, it could be a piece of valuable art, a fancy hotel in Europe, a farm, you name it, conservation, conservation area, what have you. So all kinds of possibilities open up, right? Next slide. And there's a flip side to this. And this addresses the issue that I raised earlier about smallholder farmers. So all of these little colored rectangles, imagine that they're a plot of land or a lot of land, and they're small so that, they're valuable to the individual holder, but not productive enough. And so we could aggregate these into a collective farm, right? So going from these different smaller areas and into an aggregated field where we can cultivate that and produce that much more effectively and efficiently, right? And basically what ends up happening is you are using your land as collateral, for example. You would be rewarded by the crop production that happens in this more efficient, larger aggregated piece of land, so that we can get more bang for our buck, so to speak, right? I trust this is helpful in understanding what different aspects of tokenization are. We did have on one of the shows several months ago talking about this very idea, right? How do you bring people on board? We talked to Felix about onboarding, on-ramping, and the like. We saw what's happening with decentralized finance. We've had Robert talk about tokenization of real-world assets. So all of this sort of ties in together. So if you're new to the show, please go back and take a look at some fascinating episodes of how this technology is being used. So let's move on and let's talk about the case of the avocados, right? So we talked about non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, and that there are NFTs available in the marketplace. But what does that really mean? And if I'm buying an avocado plant or tree, so for example, let's say this green space here is a farm, and there are something like 100 trees on them. Am I buying one tree, right? Or if I wanted 4, do I get to pick which 4? Can I buy as much as 30, 40? Are there limits on how much I can participate in this? What happens if there's some flooding or there's drought, okay, or some wildlife encroaches the space and destroys some of these trees? What happens? What about pollution? What about if the owner decides to sell this farm? What happens to my ownership or that NFT, right? and what are the regulations around all of this. So hopefully this sort of sets the scene to have a conversation about what has been the experience with the folks from 1 Million Avocados. And then also we'll be talking about how we can adapt this model to coffee. So this is why Paul and Peter are here. But it could, for our viewers from other parts of the world, if you're in the Middle East and you want to know about olive trees, this could apply to you. If you're in California and you're growing grapes, it could apply to you. So let's start with Kevin. Kevin, tell us about what's happening with 1 Million Avocados and how do we get to these questions that have been posed?
Thank you very much, Karim, for sharing our particular slides. So 1 Million Avocados, our specific goal is to not only just increase the production, but also the quality of avocados in Kenya. We realize that farmers do have the capital, however, they lack they have the land, but they lack the necessary capital and skills and support to be able to get to the market end. So what we decided to do, we decided to support these farmers. And as you have stated earlier, blockchain is a very good tool, not just for the transparency, but also for crowdfunding purposes. So each tree that we have currently tokenized, it is put as a non-fungible token because we are using the location of those trees for the non-fungibility. There will never be another avocado tree in that specific region. And that is the non-fungibility of our token to begin with. Secondly, once the farmer is able to have these trees, the fundraising helps the farmer to be able to get to the production end, because avocados take 36 months from planting to be able to get to maturity. And within these 36 months, there are inputs required from organic inputs. When pests and diseases attack this tree, these farmers need this service to be able to provide quality fruit. So our service goes beyond just providing farm monitoring services, but now we are able to deploy these NFTs, and with the help of crypto investors, specifically in our case, Dimitra holders, we've been able to get these farmers to production. And currently, as we talk, our farmers, some of our farmers have already passed the third quarter mark, currently being serviced with inputs. We are discussing with them or sharing all information that is going on with the farm. And that is one of the risks that we will need to talk about. How do we mitigate these risks? We have currently on farm, they're using a farm monitoring application called Connected Farmer. So with this, we are also able to collect the data from the farm, analyze it, and then give back the farmer the recommended steps to take based off their land. And that is where precision farming comes in.
Great. So let me ask that question. Sorry, go ahead. Austin, do you have a question based on what was just been said?
No, I don't have any questions so far. But really appreciate the slides. They're very visually appealing, and yeah, no, I'm looking forward to learning more. Okay,
so if I may, just for the benefit of our audience, what is a non-fungible token? Think of a dollar bill or a 100 shilling Kenya note, right? That note can be exchanged. So if I give you one, you can give me another one, and we can exchange that. That's fungible. That's a fungible token. It has a picture, it has numbers on it, easy to exchange. My driver's license, on the other hand, or my national ID for Kenya, has a picture on it and has numbers, but we wouldn't exchange. I wouldn't give you mine for yours. We can't exchange it. That makes it non-fungible. It has a unique value and makes it sort of non-fungible, right? So when you talk about you've created NFTs, non-fungible tokens, these, I presume, are in a marketplace, and somebody who buys that non-fungible token is then the owner of a tree then, has helped contribute to a tree in a particular farm? How does that work? Can you help us understand that?
Okay, just to clear. So once this investor is able to purchase this non-fungible token, the proceeds now are able to be used to help the farmer, and the farmer will share the revenue generated from the avocado tree specifically with the investor who invested in the tree. And this currently we are doing at a 20% of the revenue shared from harvest. So we're looking at it. An avocado tree starts production from the 3rd year, but then it grows exponentially. So we are looking at figures from around the first year, 10 kgs, between 10 to 15 kgs from the first year to up to 500 kgs within the 10th year. So it's an exponential growth. So the investor gets the opportunity to be able to support this farmer. So when this farmer gets to peak production, the investor receives part of the revenue generated from these trees.
So is it what I would call like an asset-backed NFT? How would you describe that? Yeah, and
we would say that the ownership of the immediately an investor purchases this tree, they get rights, they get economic rights to the harvest of the farm, depending on the percentage in which how many trees they have bought in this case.
So going back to those slides, then do I get to pick which tree it is, or is it basically one tree from that farm? How do we ensure that they're not only 1,000 trees, but we're selling 2,000 NFTs, for example?
Yeah, there are each tree you can get to select. Currently, if you go to our website, there's a support our farmer button. You can go to OpenSea, select the tree that you look at. Each farm has specific farm scores. So you can go look at different farms across Kenya and then select a tree from there. And it's not just limited to one tree. We have done batches of 100 trees and also 200 trees.
So can I make this investment in Kenya shillings? Does it have to be Ether, Solana, what? Help us understand that.
On OpenSea is using ETH, but using Dimitra portal, you can use the Dimitra token first, or secondly, for the people who have not been able to come into crypto, you can be able to use your credit card. Then you can purchase the tree from there.
What about M-Pesa? Is there an option there?
We are working on that.
Okay, so I could go to OpenSea. I can pick the particular tree that I want, the farm that I want, right?
Yes.
So then you talked about I have access to the economic rights, and you talked about how there's this exponential growth, right? So help me understand. Okay, what are the regulations in Kenya around being able to solicit these funds, and do we care what the Kenyan government thinks? Because this is just a transaction on OpenSea, and how are those rights negotiated or addressed?
I think I can pass this one to Paul.
Okay. Hi, Karim.
Hey.
So, hi, Austin. Presently, it's I'd like to say that what we are offering is pretty well regulated. If you look at the standard Kenya laws, that you are able to invest in agriculture, invest in a farm that's practicing farming of either coffee or avocados, and you're able to just via a standard investment contract, or whether, like in this particular case, the model looks more of a security, a debt security, and this is fairly regulated under the Capital Markets Authority. And this is one of the issues that we've been trying to pass along a message to government when it comes to regulation of blockchain products, is that we already have existing laws that govern most of these elements that we are looking at, in terms of whether it's equity or debt investments. We already have laws that govern that. So it's really not necessary for us to think of adding an extra layer of regulation for every new piece of technology that we come across. Otherwise, it will find that our space will become overly regulated and not attractive to investors. So we have worked on having our contracts anchored to the law. So the architecture of our contract is based on ensuring that the piece of land where the avocado tree is, or the piece of land where the coffee tree is under a lease with the farmer and us as a company, so that secures the economic rights. Our interest here is not to capture ownership, because ownership is highly contentious when it comes to land. But our interest is to make sure that we are able to allow cash flow. So we'd like to secure the economic rights. So we have a 10-year lease that allows us to take part in economic activity over this piece of land for a 10-year period. And it is this lease that we are using now to build upon the tokenization of now the tree. So I'd say it's a set of contracts. So the first contract is the lease, and we're building another set of contracts which now involve the farming, where the investor puts in the money goes to the farm and to the service providers, and it's all secured by the tree and the economic rights of that tree.
So what I understand is, okay, so you have the CMA that is active. There are already regulations in place, right? Because there are challenges around ownership and issues around land and what have you. It makes sense that you're the investor is getting their economic rights. And how are those? What are there any guarantees, or what kind of protection can you offer somebody from a remote part of the world wanting to invest in this? How can they be assured that their tree is okay and is producing, and that income is being provided to them?
I think maybe Mohammed would want to add to this, but how we are introducing the technology is to allow us to provide visibility. And so right from the being able to see the tree on whichever device, whether it's your mobile device or on your computer, you're able to get an exact location of where the farm is, have an aerial view of the tree, satellite view. You're providing footage from photographs and drones, just to increase the visibility that you have of the particular asset. And we have satellite reports that come in to just show the tree cover over a span of times that you're able, especially for markets in Europe that require certain regulations around deforestation. You're able to clearly see that this piece of land has been practicing a coffee farming or practicing avocado farming for the last 5-10 years. So it's not a deforested area. The GIS also comes in to just give the actual we call it pin location, the longitude and latitude. And that is a unique feature that no other tree or no other asset will share with that particular tree. We also provide regular monitoring reports to our investors, and all this is now where we are plugging in the technology. But I'd let Mohammed just have a go at that as well.
So to touch a bit on that is, I don't want to sound like a broken record and repeat everything, but that uniqueness is what we bring to the table. I can be able to be in anywhere, in any part of the world, and know exactly where the farm is. Because one of the key challenges that most people who want to invest in any program, you have to build two things. There's a trust capital and a competency capital that you have to literally offer to the specific investor. If you cannot offer these two specific aspects, it becomes very difficult. So the trust is what you're trying to build on top of the blockchain: transparency, traceability, and all these other aspects. But the competency is the fact that how do we de-risk our investors? So the competency, do you really know what you're doing? So that's where we come on board with a land to the report that investors are able to now track the growth. This is very key, the growth of the specific avocado from the time it was planted to the time it gets to near harvest. So you as an investor do get these specific monitoring reports. Secondly, the land suitability report does give you a metric to measure how suitable that specific farm is. So from the onset, you know what you're investing in. It's 80%. What does 80% mean? 80% means there's this specific type of soil, there's this specific, it's at this level of elevation that is suitable for avocado farming. So all this information amalgamated together does bring about that essence of, I know what I'm doing, and that level of confidence builds that competency capital. So then somebody is in a position to say, okay, I know what I'm investing in, and I put this amount, it becomes much easier. So it goes further and beyond just being able to see where the farm is, or rather where the specific avocados are. And also building on top of the other question that you also mentioned was, what happens for natural disaster? So ideally, we try to mitigate this because we have elevation data, we can actually map out for flood risk areas. So we can map out the farms that are going to be flood risk prone. So that allows you beforehand to be able to understand most of these things. But being able to provide crop insurance as a service is not a common category for our specific type of farmers. So there lies in a very good opportunity of how do we then kind of solve for that and bring our model does do that when we are looking at the crowdfunding model. It's much easier in comparison to be able to ask on the risk abound crop insurance.
Great. Austin, any questions? Or should I keep going?
No, I don't have any questions. More so of just just fascinated by the conversation so far. And sorry, I got some landscapers in the background, so I don't know if you guys can hear it. But the that I love the slide just showcasing the IoT, AI, and how it transfers into blockchain. And then just as Kevin was saying, Paul and Mohammed, one of the biggest things that I'm seeing here is that as we progress, and it's bringing the rest of the world into 21st century technology. The way that money's going to move around the world is going to be so much faster, and the way that value is moved around the world is going to be so much faster. Whereas right now, if people are investing in farms, say in North America, they may see that, oh, there's a better ROI for me to go and move my capital over to Kenya. And previously, how was that even possible? I mean, I honestly don't know how it was possible. Was it you had to be an accredited investor in Kenya? Did you have to be a citizen of Kenya? Did you have to transfer funds there, set up a bank account? Like, it sounds to where it'd be a very complicated process where because of DeFi, because of blockchain, it enables for the value to be transferred cross borders, a very seamless process. And then the transparency of the chain, how y'all are capturing the data with AI and IoT and being able to put that to where people have the transparency of what's going on there. I think this is just like incredible to me. So yeah, just more so of just my thoughts on what's going on here is it's bringing the rest of the world in the 21st century, and we're going to see money moving around to areas. And like what happens, we'll see where, say in Kenya, there's a better ROI, but if the farmers are mismanaging the farm and it's not producing for the investors, well, then people will be able to move their capital to Costa Rica, or maybe they move it to India, or they move it to Europe somewhere. I mean, it's the way that money's gonna be moving around is just at a much faster pace. And what it does is it makes all the farmers perform better because they want to make sure their crops are performing better than others, so that way they attract more investors into their local economy. So just a couple of my thoughts of where this is going.
I think also what might have been lost in conversation about NFTs is that, let's say I want to gift that to somebody. It's very easy, right? There are no regulations around that. I just put that in somebody else's wallet, right? If it's a birthday gift or whatever, right? I wanted to get into contracts, and we want to talk about coffee, but before we get there, we've talked about it from the investor's point of view and what do they get back. But who can speak to what it does to being able to empower the farmer, right? Being able to crowdsource funds from anywhere in the world, okay? And you guys are young techies. You're trying to make a difference in the country. What have you seen happen with farmers during the pilot project, and what's happening? What are your thoughts on all of that?
Okay, I think I can handle that. With both projects, the first immediate impact of the farmer is they realize an initial investment in terms of, as my partner said, there's a leasing element to it. So part of the NFT will actually go to a farmer to at least give us the access to the rights to farm. And this is something that currently does not have, because farmers are struggling with terms of working capital. Let me give you a scenario in the coffee industry. There's a new payment system that has been developed, where ideally farmers should be paid within 5 days after they sold their coffee. But the current situation is that some farmers have not been paid from the harvest that they did back in December 2023. And these sales could have contributed in terms of the farm productivity. So whatever inputs they need to put into the farms, whether it's crop protection, whether it's fertilizer, all these activities have a cost element to it. And by transferring this and putting it on a blockchain, farmers get that immediate capital injection into the farm. So they're able to at least do a few activities that they couldn't have. Now, in terms of activities, since they have a bit of working capital, they're able to improve on production. So by improve on production means that they're able to get more out of the value of their farms. Currently, in the coffee industry, farmers get about 0.3 kilos per coffee tree against a potential of about 5 kilos per coffee tree. Now, if the price doesn't change, that significant increase in production obviously translates to an increase in income. Now, since we're adding additional layers in terms of traceability, in terms of quality control, in terms of metrics where you know what inputs have been put, this is where this farm is, these are the activities the farmers have done, we're able to access better paying markets. Both the avocado and coffee value chains globally are increasing. And we're seeing a lot of demands for, especially in coffee, for premium coffee. So this translates to higher incomes on higher production, which in turn increases the farmer inputs. So we're looking at it as a domino effect, where farmers get an initial capital injection, increase the productivity on the farms, which increases the quality of the input, which then increases the market access they get, all by using blockchain technology. Current situation where, going back to working capital, I came across a working paper that showed that Kenyan farmers, especially cooperative farmers, own about 13 billion in loans. And the amount of dues paid, they're owed about 640 million of sales that haven't been paid for. So you can imagine the sort of struggle they're having, and this is still the backbone of the community. These farmers have, like Paul's parents, they need to pay for their children's school fees. They need to fend for their families. And majority of Kenyans actually rely, well, one or two in every single Kenyan family household, either your father, your brother, your sister, your auntie, one person is a farmer. So by implementing such systems, you not only change the life of one farmer, you change the community around them. So by investing in NFTs, by people actually adopting such technologies, both from a legal point of view and from a global investment, it's also profit for good. Where, as Austin said, there's a transfer of value where actual value goes to the producers of these commodities that everyone seems to be enjoying along the value chain. That's a very, very high level description of the sort of challenges we're facing here, especially in the agriculture industry. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Those numbers that you gave, 13 billion and 640 million, is that it? Are we talking dollars or Kenya shillings?
Kenya shillings.
Kenya shillings. Okay. So right now it's about 130 Kenya shillings to the dollar, right?
About.
So, yeah. All right. Okay.
Yeah, but this is an old research. So this working paper was released in about 2010. So I can actually get a bit more updated information, but things have not improved since then.
Okay. All right. And traditionally, as Austin was alluding to earlier, is that if you wanted an injection of capital, how would you have gotten it in the old days or without blockchain?
Traditionally, you'd have to try and get a loan for it, but that loan would require for you to have an asset. So, and the advantage of using blockchain is we can actually realize this coffee tree, this avocado tree, as an asset. Before the asset could actually be the land itself, or maybe if you owned maybe a cow or something, you needed something that could actually use as collateral. And a lot of MFIs and bank institutions actually struggle to give farmers loan because they have no way of capturing data. There's no data in terms of their farm activity, their farm productivity. Some of these metrics are not captured in the existing value chains. So being able to capture something that can be traced, something that can be mutable, something that can be audited actually increases the credibility of these farmers and their farming assets.
Wow. So previously, or even not previously, today, the way that they're getting these loans, they have to put up collateral, and the only form of collateral they're able to do is the actual land itself. They're not able to put up the trees or the farm production as collateral. So when you start getting the data points from AI and the IoT technology y'all are doing, then that could enable essentially with the NFTs turn each tree into an asset, and then they'll be able to use that for collateral as well. And then even the future production of that tree can also be an asset that they turn that into collateral as well. That is a breakthrough.
Yeah, you got it, Austin. Because you earlier mentioned about the how blockchain is coming to change the financial space in terms of how fast money is going to move. And maybe let me add to that is money moves to assets. And our aim here is to put on chain high quality assets that are fully backed by data, fully backed by a distributed ledger. It's something that we can all see and audit and verify that this asset is actually in existence. And we can now allow capital to flow from you as an investor to I as a farmer in Nairobi, in Embu, in a way that previously we couldn't connect because I wasn't visible to you. But bringing my assets, bringing the coffee trees on chain now creates this visibility around my farm and opens me up to sources of capital that were previously unimaginable. So, and we are hoping that's what we are hoping at, is to catch that flight of capital that's coming into the blockchain, and we want to let it meet quality assets that can be used as collateral.
The other big piece of it is it's going to enable for things that previously had no value attached to it, to now they have a value. So Kareem, you showed a slide at the very beginning where Binance was predicting by 2030 there'd be $16 trillion of value of real world assets. And going from 310 billion, I think it was, but in 2022. Yeah, that's that right there. So tokenized assets are estimated to be $16 trillion market by 2030, and an increase from 310 billion in 2022. So when I read that earlier, I was like, well, where does that come from? Like, how is it going to make that much of a jump? And now it makes sense that there's so many, just as a tree or the future yield of it, it could be the machinery where those have a value to the farmer, but as far as an asset, they have no value assigned to them. So now with the introduction of blockchain and then the data capture, now they can actually be valued and be assigned as an asset and contribute to this number right here. So there's so many crazy things that this is going to do for the world. I can see how it gets to that $16 trillion market, because even the tools, the machinery, that can be viewed as an asset. And you buy a new piece of equipment, then you can estimate, okay, this is going to produce XYZ, and so now that piece of equipment becomes an asset for the farmer as opposed to a liability.
Yes, that's a very interesting point, and I was going to ask about this. We're talking about annual rates of 16%, right? If you go get a loan, so it's something significant. It's prohibitively expensive to get a loan. One quick question before we get to coffee, and that is any of this remote sensing data put on the chain? And putting data on the chain can be expensive. So I can understand that you want to do that to ensure that, okay, we've got transparency. How are you addressing that, just quickly? And then let's talk about coffee.
Who'd you turn that over to, Kareem?
Anyone? Mohammed, are you able to help us on that?
Yeah, sure. So ideally, so this ties back to what Paul has already mentioned and what Austin has already mentioned. So we think back to traditional modalities of financing, the banks, the microfinances, and all these aspects. And none of these infrastructures or ecosystems or institutions, they all have one denominator. They lacked being able to have specific information. So if I went to a bank, I wanted to get a loan, I've been transacting with a specific bank, millions and millions of Kenya shillings, for example, but they cannot trace where the specific underlying aspect, or let's say job, or rather income or income generating activity that I'm doing. So now the key question is, how do I reduce that aspect of having this information? If this information is lying off chain, then the verification becomes quite, it's neither here nor there. So we're not solving much. But then, yes, so how do we get this information on chain? So the blockchain ecosystem, there are two great infrastructures that come into play. We have a distributed ledger, but then we also have distributed storage. So with a distributed storage, I like saying this within the company 1 Million Avocados, you want data to be persistent as much as it is consistent. So data persistence is really key. When NFTs came into being, or rather came into the whole crypto world, everybody was happy. But then one of the key things that really broke one of its legs was, you have an NFT and then all of a sudden the link tying back to that NFT is either broken, or so that data persistence is not really there. So then come in a situation when you look at I'm a torrent fan, I will not lie to you. So you find that data is, when it's distributed in a way of torrent, that's what now we get distributed storage. So the IPFS, that's solve for that a lot. So we push our information in such a way that so long as it's in a distributed storage, we can allow ourselves that value of data being persistent. It's there, it's published, and it doesn't have to be as expensive. And another aspect is the zero proof knowledge that we're trying to make sure that we really implement in the best way possible. Having that allows us in our authenticity modeling, it becomes much easier, especially to make sure proof is there. So that allows us in a way not to push a lot of information on chain, making it fairly less expensive. But now those are 3 layers that we're looking at, making sure the information is in the distributed ledger, information is within our distributed storage, and also using the zero proof knowledge, allowing us to all these 3 layers coming into play makes it much easier. So for example, now then doesn't necessarily have to send a surveyor to the ground to check where is Mohammed's farm, for example. They can be able to just pull in that information at the comfort of their seat. And that for us is like that change. Now somebody can sit at the comfort of their and verify information. So that's how we're looking at it, and we'll keep improving our systems. But that's what we're working on in our ecosystem currently at 1 Million Avocados.
Thank you for that. So what is Project MØcha, and what have you learned from the avocado experience?
I think the first thing that we realized is we were facing the same set of problems. And I speak with our farmer's heart, and because what our primary objective is to improve the productivity of our farms. Our biggest challenge right from the start was this access to capital. And so from our lessons in the pilot project and what we've done in terms of the trees that we've tokenized through 1 Million Avocados, we're able to see a solution that we had the same tool that would solve a different set of problems, which were the different types of trees that we are growing. But on a blockchain perspective, it's more or less the same thing. It's a tree. An avocado tree is a coffee tree. It's a coconut tree. Somewhere it's a cocoa tree somewhere else. So we saw it fit to align our goals in terms of being able to push all these assets on chain, because the first thing is to create that visibility. It's just being able to prove that we have a farmer who has a coffee farm, who has coffee trees, who has, for the last number of years, been producing coffee, not to his best ability, but at least we need to prove that he is in existence. And that's where now our tokenization came in terms of bringing these real world assets on chain. So where we slightly change in terms of our application of the technology is with avocados, we've been planting new avocado trees. With coffee, we already have existing trees on farm. And so here we saw an opportunity to rehabilitate that which was already in existence. And so it's ideally the same infrastructure in terms of bringing the asset on chain, in terms of representing that a farmer has a tree. It's the same infrastructure in terms of how we've been able to fractionalize this tree and give a portion of the tree to the investor, and the investor has security over the economic rights that represent that portion of the tree that they have. But how we use the money is now with the coffee is we identify an already existing tree and now apply that capital, apply the technology, apply these different tools. I consider them tools, whether it's the sensors, whether it's the weather stations, whether it's so the satellite data and drone tech, just being able to use a data-driven approach to now produce. The key thing that we'd like to address with our capital, especially with what we are receiving, is we'd like to make it productive capital. And this goes back to Austin's earlier, what he has said, that capital, like blockchain capital is quite fast, it's quite fluid. And so we'd want to make sure and give assurances to the entire ecosystem, including the farmer, that whatever capital is coming in is primarily going towards the productivity of the farm, because that's our objective, is to improve the productivity. And so this is something else that we've suffered from traditional finance, is that we didn't have productivity geared capital. You go get a bank loan, they give you $1 million. All they want to know is your monthly installments. There's no follow-up to know whether this 1 million, was it put in land? Is it that you went and bought a car? What exactly did you do with this money? So blockchain will allow us to focus on improving the productivity of the farm, channeling these investments so that we are able to now get to a point where we are growing the verticals in the value chain, from the farm to value addition, to being able to mill it, to roast it locally. And our goal, especially with our launch for Project MØcha, is we want to get coffee bags to you, Austin, in the US, that whatever amount of money that you put in towards the rehabilitation of the tree, we'll be able to send you a pack of coffee, roasted, packed locally, and shipped to you, so that you're able to see that cycle of being able to get me from an unknown farmer to a farmer who's able to package and deliver a bag of coffee to you.
Brilliant.
I
Austin,
would
how
like
would
to
you like
add
your coffee? All right, go ahead.
Yeah. Just to add on to the pain points that Paul has hit in terms of the farmers, last week there was actually, in this whole demonstration going on, there's a growing region in Kenya called Kirinyaga, and there were actual coffee farmers from a cooperative who were demonstrating because of the, I would say, inefficiencies that are currently plaguing them in terms of payment, poor payments, late payments, and lack of traceability in terms of their coffee payments. So just to address that, these are real world issues you are facing, and we're trying to solve them with blockchain solutions. And we want
who's handling those. Sorry. Let's say, who's handling those payments now? So why is it that those payments is it the government handling those, or those private companies handling that payment processing? Why is there an issue with it, and why are people protesting? Well, I know why they're protesting, but why is it out of their control?
It's a systemic, because of the lack of traceability, lack of accountability. So somewhere along the value chains, there are things that are happening that should not be happening.
Let me help just to drill down to the actual problem. It's smallholder farmers don't have the capacity to process their coffee in lots. So they have to aggregate their coffee at cooperatives. And so once they take their coffee to their cooperative, they completely lose visibility. They lose ownership of the coffee because it's aggregated. So now it's a cooperative that markets this coffee, and the cooperative is under certain government conditions. So like, even in terms of who are the players that the cooperative can use to market, who are the people, which payment systems that the buyers are going to use to pay the cooperative, all this is controlled. So why this is really necessary for the farmer to be able to be represented as an entity with his own assets is for these particular reasons, that now be able to directly access the customer without having to go through the government process through the cooperative.
I was just going to say that for those folks who don't know about Kirinyaga, that's in like Western Canada. Sorry, Western Canada. It's like Ariel Martinez. Sorry, Western Kenya, right? And it's sort of the extension of this forest that comes out of Central Africa. It's a very unique geography, and I think it probably lends itself to a very different type of coffee that is produced. All right, and I'm seeing the slide here that talks about, you know, the various partners that are involved. So you're leveraging the experience from 1 Million Avocados, right? Block IoT, we talked about Bradley Zagele about that and some of the work that they're doing and putting on chain data, collecting remote sensing data and putting that on the chain. Kotani Pay, we spoke to Felix about the on and off ramps, about that. Anything else you want to add? We're at the top of the hour, so we have to kind of wrap things up. There's lots more to discuss. There's your contact. Anything else you want to add at this point? And what are the next steps? Where do we go from here? Right?
I'd say join our wait list. We are running a wait list as we move towards our launch. We are hoping to launch sometime in September, possibly at a big event. So join our waitlist in the meantime, so that we are able to connect, give you visibility on the farm, the trees, and we hope that you buy a bag of coffee from us.
Great. Now, if you're a techie in the audience and you want to participate and learn or participate or contribute to this, you know, what are the opportunities? Are you looking for folks to help you? What kind of help do you need? Paul, Kevin, anyone?
I'd say it's support. I think the biggest support that we can get from you at the moment is supporting our ecosystem. It's sorry, it's joining our ecosystem and supporting the cause. Adopt a tree, invest in an avocado farm. This gives us the liquidity that's necessary to just keep us going. And I believe that as we continue to build in the ecosystem, we'll be able to now get to a place where we are looking at even what can we build in terms of infrastructure together. So I'd say right now, just sign up, buy a tree, or adopt a tree.
Great, thank you. Mohammed, Peter, Kevin, any thoughts, closing remarks?
Yes, thank you very much. How blockchain, the ethos around blockchain is around democratizing finance. And it is clear that farmers lack this finance. And if you are moving towards food security, then we should democratize this finance for our farmers specifically. That is the ethos we are working with within 1 Million Avocados and Project MØcha, where we want to help our farmers to get to peak productivity. And beyond just that, we're also looking at the sustainability element of it. This data that we are collecting is able to help the farmer gain even better opportunities. For example, we're talking about carbon credits for avocado farmers. So it goes beyond just financing the farmer to be able to get avocados. For us, just go to 1millionavocados.com, our website. On the top right corner, there is a button to support a farmer. It will take you to the OpenSea link, where you can see the avocado trees that we have on chain. Kindly support us so that we can continue providing this service to more farmers within Kenya and the East Africa region as a whole.
Thanks, Karim. I think from my side, I'm going to speak on a bit on closing remarks, or just on what the farmer gets, other than what also the investor gets. So we've lived in a world where a lot of, when we're talking about democratizing information, we're bringing that information to the most granular aspect of it. So in remote sensing, different people always talk about spatial resolution. So it's either you have a very good satellite that can capture a very wide area, or you have a low-lying satellite that can be able to capture small areas, but bits and bits create a jigsaw puzzle. So I feel like for us, with every smallholder farmer, we're creating a jigsaw puzzle that fits into a bigger picture that is going to assist. Like, I'll speak to what Peter has said. It's very, very difficult. I love the fact that he gave numbers, albeit it's 2010 referenced in terms of the temporal aspect of it, but a lot of farmers have a lot of loans, and they get there because there's very little liquidity. Now, we've brought a machine, or rather a tool, that allows us to capture and give metrics to a productive asset. So now that element of putting money to something that gives you productivity, and it becomes an asset, and this asset is long term. This is not a short-term program. This is a long-term program that allows generations, albeit, because if you look at the longevity of what production you can get from an avocado tree, and even in the coffee trees, this is not a me, this is a generational thing. So it allows you to plan. When we talk about money market funds and all these other aspects of different tools or vehicles that allows us to invest, for me, this is a productive asset, and it is a token. It's asset backed, and it has that longevity that can allow you to keep investing and reinvesting, and hand it over to your children one day, and they'll still find value in it, because that's the whole aspect of where we're going with cryptos and the blockchain ecosystem. So do support us. We need more people to enter into the ecosystem, and that will allow us to even find more liquidity, more investors. So it also builds on our trust capital. The more of you coming in, it allows us to keep growing and growing that community, one person at a time. So thank you, and let's keep doing this and keep moving forward.
Great. Benson just commented that it avoids exploitation, right, and allows farmers to do their job. Austin, what do you think? And I think you have something for us.
Yeah. So, Ray, do you want to pull that up while we give these closing thoughts? But this is a collectible stamp for today's episode of African Voices. So yeah, go ahead and pull out your your phone. You can scan that, and you get yourself a collectible stamp for today's episode. For all those, I need to do it too. For all those tuning in for that, there's your stamp. A couple of thoughts on it that one, just appreciate all of you for coming on today's show and sharing all of your information, your insights, and what you guys are working on. Thanks for taking the time out of the day. Kareem, thanks for hosting this, putting this all together. It's phenomenal. This is the type of stuff that really gets me inspired in Web3, that, it's not just something that is like that people perceive it as, oh, it's just like stocks, you just make money with it or whatever. There's real world purpose to what this technology can do. And this is just another example of how this is going to impact the world. And it's going to bring change throughout the world that, we can't even fathom how much change it's going to bring, the amount of impact it's going to take. But I see this as one of those things where the local area has a chance to improve, and it's not by improving because of needing outside help. It's the people within their local area improving it themselves and having a tool, like Muhammad was saying, having a tool to do so. So this gets me really excited. It inspires me to continue pushing Web3 adoption and keep it going further. And so I just wanted to give you guys some appreciation for coming on today.
Thank you. Awesome. Thank you very much. Ray, anything from your side? Okay. Okay, but anyway, while we're waiting for Ray to come on and say goodbye, yeah, there was an interesting point about the labor costs and the production productivity, like 23 cents an hour, labor costs of like 40 cents per hour, which is very low. I mean, you can pick up an avocado for something like what, 40, 50, 60 shillings now, compared to several dollars at a supermarket in the US.
Yeah, small avocado is probably, you're lucky if you can find them on special for $1 each, but small avocado is probably $1.30, $1.40. Medium avocados, $1.50, $1.60, and large avocados are, depending where you're at, pushing $2.
Right. Okay.
No,
you're looking at the Florida prices. I think in Canada or Toronto, Vancouver, they're significantly higher than that.
That's awesome. Excellent conversation. Amazing. And really was cool where it started getting what you guys are talking about, unrealized assets, unrealized capital. That's pretty amazing, right? It's going to unlock all kinds of different things. And, I really enjoyed it. You guys are amazing. It's awesome that people are putting their brains and putting it into technology, and their technology is just is going to explode. It's exciting these next few years. We talk about it on my show. I do it at night. And you guys are inspirational. Appreciate you guys, and keep at it. Like I said, great show, Kareem. Great show, Austin. And thank you guys. Great guests. Appreciate y'all.
Thank you very much. So we close it out?
Yes, sir. Have a good one.
Thank you, audience. Thank you very much for tuning in.